TIAA is on a mission. Why? Because 54% of Black Americans don't have enough savings to retire. So in collaboration with big-name artists like Wyclef Jean, TIAA released Paper Right, new music inspiring a new financial future. With 100% of streaming sales going to a nonprofit that teaches students how to invest. Stream Paper Right now and help close the gap.
And it is never what happened that messes with them. It's what they made it mean about them or about people or about life or about trust or about whatever.
Hi, and welcome to Deep Leadership. I'm your host, John Rennie. Well, I hope all is well with you today. It is another beautiful day here in North Carolina, and this episode is brought to you by our sponsors, Ignite Management Services and Liberty Strength. These sponsors help me bring these shows to you each and every week, so I encourage you to click on their links below and check them out. Also, I want to remind you that the Qualified Leadership Book Series, which includes all three of my best-selling books, is now available on my website, johnsrennie.com. You get all three books for 15% off the Amazon and Barnes & Noble price, but this offer is only available on my website. This is the perfect way to get 2024 off to a powerful start. So check it out at johnsrennie.com. Well, that is it. Today we're going to be talking about Becoming Unflappable, and my guest is Josselyne Herman-Saccio. Josselyne is a master coach who helps leaders focus on their vision and become calm, cool, and unflappable under pressure. She calls this state unmessable-with, and we learn a lot more about it in this powerful discussion. So, are you ready to dive in? Let's get started.
Welcome to Deep Leadership. Leadership is a people business. That's the philosophy of your podcast host, John Rennie. As a former Cold War submarine officer who spent 20-plus years leading businesses in corporate America before starting his own manufacturing business, he knows that leadership matters. Are you ready for some real-world, actionable advice from John as well as his expert guests?
I'm ready.
The show starts right now.
Welcome to the Deep Leadership Podcast. Today I'm joined by Josselyne Herman-Saccio. Josselyne is a master coach in the art of being unmessable-with. No matter what life throws at you, she has spent over 30 years as an entrepreneur, author, coach, leader, and designer of transformative programs. Her mission is to empower people to live the life of their dreams now versus someday, and develop themselves to be unmessable-with in the process. One fun fact about Josselyne is that she's a former pop singer and songwriter. Her group recorded the hit song, That's What Love Can Do, which was a #1 Billboard song in America. I am excited to have her on the show to talk about how to become unmessable-with. So, Josselyne, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh, it's good to meet you. And I've been practicing that word unmessable-with.
I know it's a tongue twister sometimes, right?
Yeah, and I just wanted to start out just getting into the basics of that because I really like the concept. So what does it mean to be unmessable-with?
Well, the first thing I'll tell you what it doesn't mean, because sometimes people hear it and they go, oh, that means being tough or not letting people get to you. And that's not really what it is at all. What I mean by being unmessable-with is being able to stay focused on your vision, on your dream, on your purpose, and act from that space versus the space of reaction where you're messable with. People say things happen, whatever, and you go into reaction mode or survival mode. So there's a difference between reaction and creation. And being unmessable with is the muscle to stay in the world of creation, no matter what's coming at you. And life throws stuff at us, right? So, I mean, you got to be ready for that. It's not like things are lollipops and rainbows all the time.
Yeah, so it's almost like the idea that you're staying firm on a course no matter what storms come, is that you stay on that course because you have a plan, you have a goal, you have a mission, and you have a true north that you're going towards, and you don't let things distract you from that mission or to take you off that mission. You stay on that course. Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
Very close. It's very close. What I hear from what you said is it's more about goals versus vision, which is more spatial. So it's kind of like, if you have a vision for freedom, then you might have goals within that vision.
Okay.
To make a certain amount of money or to, sell your company or to whatever. But goals, if you get too fixated on goals, you're focused on the vision, the vehicle, not the vision. And I like to keep people in the space of creation. So that means their goals are etched in sand to some degree. So they're able to pivot when they need to inside of a bigger vision, like a purpose.
I like that, a purpose. And you use the word creation, which is interesting because one of the things that when I talk to like high school students, one of the things I say is that we live in a consumer society. And I said the people who make history or accomplish things are the creators, not the consumers. And I tell them to be creators and not consumers and to create, not consume. Why did you use the word creation? I like that.
Well, if you look in your own life, just look at anything that was like magical in your life. It was in that space of creation, and you might not have even known what you were doing. Maybe it was even creating this podcast, and you were just, you were kind of throwing stuff out there and creating, and even your failures were exhilarating to some degree. That's that space of creation. It's like there's magic. It's like the beginning of a relationship or the beginning of a company or the beginning of anything. But very often, almost always, in my experience, that creeps into the space of management. And management is not magical. It's more survival based. It's more getting things done, going through this thing to get to that thing. So it's a lot of looking down and in versus up and out. Vision and creation is more an up and out phenomenon. And one of the biggest things that I work with people on is developing the muscle to move from reaction to creation, because creation's where the magic is. So if you want to have like the life of your dreams, you have to be able to access that space, not just when you're, creating a piece of art or creating a new company, but also at Starbucks or when you're on the phone with the insurance company or whenever in normal everyday moments of life. Be able to access that space of creation and magic and vision and breath, really.
Okay. I see where this is going. I like it. So you work with a lot of people. How do you work with them? How do you empower them to live, to pursue their vision, to pursue the life of their dreams? How do you help them stay in that creation mode and avoid the reaction mode?
Well, it depends on who I'm working with. I have a lot of different ways that I work. I have one-on-one coaching. I do a group mastery for entrepreneurs, and I have like regular group coaching. I have courses. So it depends on the context in which I'm working with somebody. If I'm working with an entrepreneur who wants to minimally double their business, that's the kind of ticket into this mastery program, then I would work with them on performance, on vision, on, being able to see where they're stuck in reaction mode in the creation of their business or the management of their business, where they're stuck doing it all versus having it all, and start to really allocate and delegate and, from inside of their vision, so that it's all in fulfillment of their ultimate purpose and the purpose of their company. Because most people lose sight of their vision because they're so busy getting stuff done. And very effective people are really good at reacting and they're really good at getting stuff done. So it ends up being the muscle memory goes there versus that space of, okay, what am I creating right now? Not from where I am, and to exponentially, to like move a little bit here or increase 20% or whatever, but from nothing, what do I want in 5 years from now or a year from now? And then design backwards to see what has to get created now to fulfill on that vision that you created from a blank canvas, not from a canvas that already had a bunch of stuff on it that now you're just going to add a little more blue and a little more red and, end up with a very thick canvas,
Right. So do you help people figure out what their vision is too? Because I was going to say, I had a networking meeting this morning and just an impressive guy that I met with this morning, but I kept asking him, like, what do you want to do? What do you want to be? What's your goals? And he didn't know. And I said, well, that seems like it's the first thing you've got to work out. Is that something you help people with? Because I'm
absolutely
surprised to see such an accomplished person
it's shocking, right?
Without
it's
like a vision or a plan for
it's not future. Just, successful people. It's just people get so busy getting through life. They don't have time to look up at what they want. It's like, what do I want? What are you talking about? I'm just trying to deal with what's happening right now, get my kids to college or get, my business out of the red or whatever it is. So accessing your vision takes something, because sometimes it doesn't take that much because people can tap into it. But sometimes there's a lot of things that are unresolved from the past, and that's clouding your vision. So if you have a lot of those kind of limiting beliefs or negative self-talk or, lids or limits that are encroaching on your view, you can't really see a vision. So you've got to first dismantle. That's what I call what messes with people. Dismantle those beliefs, dismantle those truths that aren't really true, but that they think are true, and free them from that so that they can actually look in the direction of, okay, what do I want? What do I want not only, for my company, but what do I want for my life? Like, what do I want at the end of my life? What do I want to say I fulfilled on? That's a question most people don't ask themselves.
Okay, I'm glad to hear you say that, because I think that's one of the, I do feel that many people haven't figured that out. I know when I got out of the military, I struggled for a long time to figure, because I did everything I wanted to do in my life by 26 years old. Then I was like, well, now what? Right. And that was really a hard question to answer. Like, now what? Because I'd never really dreamed of my life after the military. And it took me a long time. And a lot of veterans struggle with that because they had an identity which was in the military. They come out and they're like, I don't know who I am, And
I
that
think
was
it's not unique to the military. It's interesting because even when I got my when I got my record deal and got my number one record, which was my lifelong dream and blah, blah, I was like, now what? It's like, now my whole life, this is what I've been dreaming of. Now I did it. So now what? And I had to look from nothing. And I work with people that are, successful towards the end of their career. And they're sort of like, I still have this company. It's making money, but I don't know if I really want to still do it. Am I just doing it because it's there? And now what am I? And it's very common for people that have, either completed a dream, because any dream you have has a shelf life. You might have a dream to get married. Okay, then you get married. Now what? Okay, I guess what? Kids, it's like, and then you have kids and it's not so much the dream you thought. But then they go away to college and then it's kind of, okay, now what? What is my life for? So I think it's a question that circumstances force people into looking at, but I push people into looking at it even when the circumstances aren't forcing them to look at it, because I believe that muscle is critical to be able to be somebody who lives that kind of life where you're actually passionate about your life and fulfilling on something at any moment, whether you're, taking a walk down the, in the woods, or you're in a board meeting. It's like, what are you fulfilling on? Why are you there? Are you there because it was in your calendar, or because it's in fulfillment of some purpose?
Yeah. I like this. I like the idea, because I think too many people are in autopilot, and I think
totally,
and they're not recognizing that. What are you living for? What are you on earth to do? What is the one thing that you were created for in this world? And are you doing it? Because when you're doing that, it feels great.
And it doesn't matter how many hours you work, and it doesn't matter what you don't care, because you love it. That's that magic space of creation that I'm committed that people have access to, because you don't have to just go through life. That whole going through lifeness is like a disease that we've all come down with and just accepted, like, well, that's just what it is to live. No, it's not. That's what it is to survive and get through life. But you're going to get through life and be at the end of it. And then what? You survived life. Big deal. Okay. Except not really, because nobody does survive life. You are heading towards one direction. We all are. So what are you going to use your time on this planet for? And it doesn't mean it has to be some big lofty thing. You don't have to move to India and become Gandhi or whatever, but you could be the Gandhi of your family or your neighborhood or your company or whatever it is that you're fulfilling on.
I like that. One thing I read or heard someone say that when you're doing something that you're passionate about, the time goes by, like you don't even realize, like hours go by, you don't even notice. And is that what you say as well, or notice as well,
definitely.
When you're in that magic space?
Sure. I mean, you could look at it as, what athletes call being in the zone. Artists have that same, they'd be painting and then it's like 3 hours later and they're like, oh my God, where did the time go? But I find that in my work. I mean, when I'm coaching somebody or I'm designing a program, to me, that's like my fulfillment of my mission in life, to empower people to fulfill their dreams and be unmessable with. So to me, that is my painting or my soccer or my surfing or whatever it is. So yeah, I think people find that in whatever is their jam, so to speak.
Yeah, I like that. And you mentioned some things that hang us up, that mess with us. You mentioned like self-limiting beliefs, ideas that we're not adequate, or what are some other areas where where people are getting messed with, and maybe some of the top things that you see when you coach people, that what's preventing them from being, this creative self and living their vision?
The main things that I find, like the top offenders, so to speak, in terms of what messes with people. Number one is limiting beliefs, for sure. Something that somebody thinks is true that isn't. That is number one. Then I would say things that are pretty, logical. Time messes with people. Sleep messes with people. Money messes with people, for sure. And relationships, so whether it's with your family or somebody at work or whatever, or a politician that, just irks you or whatever it is, you get messed with when, something doesn't go the way you think it should go. So shoulds and shouldn'ts mess with people. That's a big part of what I need to dismantle with people, because, people really think that things should be a certain way, or people should be a certain way, or shouldn't be a certain way. Yeah. And that's not reality. In reality, people are how they are. And you're the one saying they should or shouldn't, and then you suffer. So anytime you have a should or a shouldn't, you're going to suffer to some degree, whether it's a should or shouldn't about yourself or about something or about someone.
I love that, because I think, I often talk in my books is that leadership is a people business. And I often say that people are messy, but they're also amazing. So yeah. I think many leaders get stuck where they're saying this person should be doing it this way and this person should be. And the truth is a lot of times people are in the wrong positions, and they're not doing what they're naturally great at. And part of leadership is making sure that you have the right people in the right roles, and you switch them around. You have to find where they're saying, when they're doing what they were put on earth to do, when you can get them in that role, things just, you get as many people as possible, then things go well. But trying to force the square peg in the round hole, I think sometimes people are this should belief that this person should be able to do that job. Well, maybe not.
Yeah. And I think that a lot of leaders, what I've found, with the leaders that I work with, and most of my clients are entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, founders, they're 80% of them are that, is that they're not connected to the people on their team's missions or purpose. Yeah. And when you're not in that person's world to get what their vision is, and is this job an access to fulfilling on that vision? If it isn't, at best, you'll get your money's worth out of the person, at best. But you're not going to get somebody who's sustainable in terms of, fulfilling on their vision. So they come to work and they view that as a building block towards their legacy. And that's a different kind of game. So if you're not connected to the vision of the people who work for you, and that takes, it takes getting in their world, not just having them execute your vision. It's like they maybe shouldn't be at your company if what they want isn't aligned with what you're creating. And most people don't even spend the time to get related to the people that are on their teams. And that's a mistake. I think it's short-sighted, because in the long run, if somebody is working with you and it is their sweet spot, it is what they love to do, it is inside of their vision, then you're going to have a very happy employee or team member. And that, avoids burnout. It increases retention. It's just a whole culture that gets created through getting connected to, and that's purpose-driven leadership, which, people talk about, but they very rarely practice it.
Yeah, very true. Very true. I think at least I did 22 years in corporate, and I saw that the purpose was never clear sometimes, because there were so many moving parts that we never got clear messages. And so there was a lot of stress and a lot of, strife and conflict, and because the purpose wasn't clear. What are we supposed to do today?
You can't be aligned with something that isn't clear. It's like being a sailor and going out on the sea and you don't have a heading. You're going to end up in Guam. You don't even know where you're going. You have to, and that takes not a lot of time, but it takes tending to. It's kind of like watering the tree that bears the fruit. You have to spend the time to water that tree. Otherwise, that fruit's going to dry up at some point. And it's the same thing with your employees. When I work with companies, I that's like the first thing that I deal with people, because ultimately it's human resourcing, not resources. If you look at somebody as a resource, you're not going to tend to resourcing them so that they are constantly given a source of energy and power and vision and fulfillment. And you're just going to end up with people that you use up, like any resource, like we do with our, natural resources on this planet.
We'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsors.
As a leader, you're responsible for the mission and the people assigned to you. Regardless of the size of your team, employees are depending on you for their lives and careers. For the sake of your team and the people who entrust you with this role, you need to master the skills to become a great leader. Best-selling leadership author John Rennie is proud to introduce the Qualified Leadership book series. This new series teaches you how to become a people-centered leader. Great leaders know that employees who are respected, appreciated, and allowed to grow will go the extra mile. These books provide real-world leadership wisdom written from a hands-on perspective. If you want to be a more effective leader, this is the one book series you should read this year. This 3-book series contains the following best-selling leadership books: I Have the Watch, You Have the Watch, and All in the Same Boat, for one low price of $39.99. Begin your journey to become a leader worth following. Go to johnsrennie.com and get your order in today.
This episode is brought to you by Ignite Management Services. Ignite is led by Mike Watson, who you might remember from episode 137. Mike and his team believe that everything starts with leadership, whether it's strategy execution or cultural transformation. It's the role of the leader to create the conditions for their people to succeed. The team at Ignite can help you develop critical habits to enhance your leadership capability and transform your business. Ignite Management is now offering the Resilient Leadership Assessment Tool. This is an online questionnaire designed to assess and guide leadership development, coaching, and team building. It provides leaders an opportunity to gain insights into their leadership strengths and development needs. After taking this assessment, you will receive a custom, detailed report that provides practical and actionable recommendations to enhance your effectiveness. I have taken this assessment myself and found it to be extremely valuable in helping me make changes to my leadership approach. Right now, Ignite is offering 15% off the price of this tool to the deep leadership audience. Go to ignitemanagement.ca and enter the code START15 at checkout to get started today. This episode is brought to you by Jeremy Clevenger at Liberty Strength. As a high-performing leader, you know that leadership isn't about telling people what to do, it's about leading by example. And for most people, the one area that they are lacking when it comes to leading by example is their health and fitness. By improving your health and fitness, every other area of your life improves. Your energy skyrockets, your sleep improves, your confidence increases, and more. But how can you get and stay fit as a busy leader? Well, you do what you've always done. You hire the best people for the job. Don't struggle on your own. Put Liberty Strength in your corner. Jeremy and his team will work with you to take your physique, mindset, nutritional habits, and more to the next level with his step-by-step, all-inclusive coaching program. I've worked with Liberty Strength for the past 2 years, and I'm in the best shape of my life, and I'm still hitting strength personal records at 56 years old. If you want to step up your game, reach out to Jeremy at libertystrengthtx.com to find out more and get your initial consultation scheduled with him today. That's a really important point. Leaders are listening in terms of trying to, know your people and try to get them to where they're bringing their best every day and they're doing what they were put on earth to do. When you do that, I think things get a little more straightforward. I think that makes a lot of sense for sure. So I was just thinking, the term unmessable with. Mm-hmm. So what if we have, whether it's employees or a peer or a boss, someone who's going to cheat, lie, or steal, something that violates ethics around them. How do you deal with that and still be unmessable with. That's what I was thinking about when it's sort of coming from left field. It's coming from a place of where you're not being ethical, or someone's not being ethical with you. How do you deal with those issues?
Well, ethics are created and they are personal. So not everybody has the same ethics as you or I do. And I don't even know if you and I have the same ethics. Who knows, right? But when somebody does something like lie or steal, and they do that, the thing that messes with us isn't that they lied. It's that we didn't see it coming.
Yes.
That's what messes with you. So what happens, it's just like in a marriage, it's not that your husband or wife cheats on you. It's that you didn't see it coming that messes with you. Yeah. Or getting fired. It's not getting fired. People have been fired. It's no big deal. If you know it's coming, you're like, you can deal with it. So I train people to be related to reality so they can see things coming. And not only can they see things coming, they can intervene before certain things happen. And if something does happen, they don't have to deal with it from this shouldn't be happening. Because again, it's this shouldn't be happening that's messing with you. It's not the thing that's happening. It's never what happened that messes with us. And that includes, by the way, I've worked with over 200,000 people over the last 30 some odd years coaching them. And I've had people have things happen to them, which I'm sure you, having been in the military, you can relate to, like horrible things like seeing their family killed in front of them, or they've been, raped, or they've been trafficked, or, things you wouldn't wish upon anybody in your life, right? And it is never what happened that messes with them. It's what they made it mean about them, or about people, or about life, or about trust, or about whatever. So when someone lies to you in business, which they do all the time because they're called human beings, and human beings lie all the time, even if it's little lies, they do. They say I'm fine when they're not. It's just, we're kind of wired that way. When you then have that meaning called, they don't respect me, or they're betraying me, or, they shouldn't be doing this, and I should have known better. That's the thing that thwarts you. It isn't the lie. You can deal with a lie.
Yeah, I saw that a lot in the corporate setting where it was like maybe departments being competitive. It's like, oh, I can't believe that guy said that in the meeting. Oh, I'm going to get back at him on this next meeting. And just like this petty stuff that I guess I was always, because maybe with my military background, I was like, we're all on the same team. Like we're all
have that mentality. A lot of people do not have that kind of group team mentality. It's a smart thing to engender as a culture in any company. Otherwise, you end up with silos like that, and it's not healthy.
And I saw these people getting very emotional about really just, in my mind, they were silly things. Like this isn't life or death, people. Why are we getting all upset about it? But I think what you're saying is that it wasn't so much that of what that person did. It was how they felt about it, and it was bothering. They shouldn't have said that in that meeting, and they shouldn't have done this. They shouldn't. So it's the should and the shouldn't have.
Exactly.
That's
because
really
if you think about it, people say whatever they say. It's what you say about what they say that messes with you. It isn't what they say. If somebody called you an artichoke, you wouldn't be all ruffled. You'd be like, whatever, I'm not an artichoke, But if somebody calls you stupid, then you go, wait a minute. It's like, because you have some doubt about your intelligence or something. You have no doubt that you're not an artichoke. So it's not what they say. It's what you say.
So how do you deal with that when it is something that maybe is like really close to, like maybe you're a little insecure about your intelligence. Maybe you came from a blue collar family like myself, and you end up in these, around a lot of smart people, and then someone calls you stupid. Yeah. Like, oh, well, that Randy guy, he's not smart.
If I were coaching you in that situation, I would deal with getting that conversation about yourself called you're stupid. There's no such thing as stupid or smart in reality. There's, what you know, and you don't know what you don't know. And that's true about every single human being. Yeah. There's not a person that's not true about. Smart and stupid is a label that we put on ourselves or other people, and it's completely arbitrary. And, even whatever, you're not sitting there doing an IQ test, which is even arbitrary. It's a made up thing that people made up. It's not, there's no smart or stupid inherently. So reality isn't labeled inherently. It's human beings that label reality. And then depending on which human being you're talking to, you're going to get a different label. Like in war, there are people for whom we are the terrorists.
Mm.
And that's really real for them. And it's so real that they'll strap on a suicide bomb and, go kill themselves and other people because it's so real. Or my belief is more real than your belief. And then there's war. This border is, okay, borders are made up. They change all the time. And we get this is the truth. So it really is if you can start to deal with reality, here's this thing. It's not good or bad. It's not right or wrong. It's not big or small. In reality, it's just whatever it is. And then we have this whole story about it as human beings. The frog who doesn't have language isn't oh, that's a big thing. They're not they don't label things the way we do. As human beings, we have the gift of language, but we also have the curse of language because, a lot of the language that we end up using by default is not very empowering.
Mm. I can see where, and it depends on the individual, but I see a lot of people get into their heads too much. They're overthinking, overanalyzing.
That's another thing that messes with people. Overthinking, that's a big one.
Yeah, and so it's almost it's not just this thing is a thing. It's what does that thing mean?
Yeah, exactly. It's and why exactly, and what are they trying to do to me by putting that there? And who's out to get me? And just nonsense that we waste our time on.
Yeah. So if you find yourself getting into your head like that and you're overthinking, then that might be you might be getting messed with.
Definitely. And then what I do with people is I have them start to identify what messes with them. So if somebody said, overthinking messes with me, I say, okay, so what's the physical symptom that you're overthinking? What's actually happening in your body? And I don't know if that's something you deal with, if you could even answer that question about overthinking, but yes or no, because we could do a real thing rather than a hypothetical.
I don't have that problem.
Yeah.
It's the opposite of it.
Exactly, right? So I would ask them what that is. And so let's say it's maybe a tightness in their chest or it's a redness in their face or something physical happens.
Yeah.
And I have them access what happens physically as a red flag for that they're about to go down the road of being messable with. Now, why is it important to identify the physical manifestation of it is because what is happening when you're messable with, or you go to the world of reaction, is literally a physical thing. Physically, your brain, your amygdala is kicking off, right? And you're in fight, flight, or freeze, and you're surviving, even though there's no bullet coming at you necessarily. A conversation occurs like a bullet, so you're now ready to fight back or whatever. So you need to physically interrupt that brain pattern and bring your thinking to the front part of your brain, which is where creativity happens. And that's why I have them see the physical part and then come up with a hack to physically interrupt that physical symptom, whatever the hack is, whether it's shaking their hands or, going like this or something that they can do without having to get up out of the room, because you can't always leave a meeting to go interrupt what's happening, and then reset and pre-create another road to go down so that they don't have to go down that messable with road of reaction.
I love that. So in other words, just figuring out what the trigger is, what the physical feeling is, and a way to, if you will, snap yourself out of it and get to the right part of the brain.
Exactly. And snapping yourself out of it. The problem with a lot of coaches, I hate saying anything bad about anybody, and it's not bad. It's just it's not powerful as it could be, is most people will get you to a mindset shift where you're at neutral. And that's just not enough, because if you get to neutral, all the muscle is in the reaction. So your muscle's going to pull to go back there. So you get to nothing and then you go back there. So it's kind of like, all right, big deal. You were able to be at peace for a moment. Okay, so that's nice as a relief. But unless you pre-create another road to go down and start building that muscle, then this muscle of being reactive is going to carry the show every time, because it just has years more exercise.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So, if we're looking at this from a leadership perspective, and this being a leadership show, in what you've worked with lots of people, lots of leaders, entrepreneurs, people who've led other people, what are some keys to being a great leader and with this stuff in mind that we've been talking about?
Well, one is for sure getting connected to your team's vision. So that, I used to have this quote, oh my God, this is like 30 years ago. It was, I am their leader, I must follow. So it really is giving people the opportunity to co-create the environment and the missions and the goals and the different registers that you're using or the measures that you're using to determine whether the job is getting done, so that people experience being the author of what they're engaged with, not just an executor of it. That, I think, is a big quality of all the greatest leaders that I've worked with. They've been able to pivot from, okay, do what I'm saying to do, to, okay, let's look together. Here's my vision. What do you see? Or what is it that you want? And then be able to even get people new jobs if they're not the right people for the team, and to, practice what you preach. To be a leader, you have to demonstrate what you're demanding of other people. If you demand of yourself, you can demand anything of anybody else. It's when you're not willing to demand it of yourself that it gets dicey being somebody to be able to hold a high bar for your teams. So a great leader is also somebody who's always learning and developing themselves. Nobody has it handled. I don't care, how many years I've been practicing transformation. I'm always in the middle of the mountain. I've never reached the top of it, and that's 45 years I've been engaged in this work. So that's, you might think, okay, well, I've gotten some. Nope. It's the next insight, the next blind spot, the next thing I didn't see, the next muscle I haven't developed. And that, I think, is really important for any leader, is to never come from that they have it handled. Or that they may know things that their team doesn't know just from, virtue of experience and stuff, but being open to co-creation and listening is very, very important, I think.
Yeah, I think that that mindset of like always learning and always trying to get better, I think that makes us a little more curious as leaders, and a little humility goes a long way in terms of just saying, to working with your employees and say, what do you think? Or how do you see this? Or am I getting this right? And those little questions and being willing to listen, I think it allows them to feel or to actually be part of this co-creation. I love that term that you use, which is co-creation. And the only way you do that is being humble enough to listen to others and be willing to listen to ideas that maybe you've done it for a long time, but sometimes someone new to something can come up with much better ideas.
It's the fresh eyes, right? And I typically coach people to do a method called the 3-in-1. So if somebody, because a lot of employees don't want to make a mistake, they don't want to look bad or whatever. So instead of coming to the leader and saying, okay, what should I do? I always coach my leaders and CEOs to go to people and say, okay, give me 3 possible solutions and 1 recommendation. Of those 3, what are you recommending? Doesn't mean they're going to do what the person's recommending, but that trains somebody to be entrepreneurial on their own and be the kind of team member that can think for themselves rather than just execute. And execution is important. But execution without authorship it's unsustainable.
Yeah. I like that. I love it. So maybe what final message would you like to leave with our listeners?
Well, I think if you're not really clear about what your vision is, and I don't mean goals, I mean your vision. Like if you accomplished every goal that you ever had, then what would be possible in terms of like a space or a it's not really an emotion or a feeling, but it's like a space, it could be peace, it could be freedom, it could be self-expression, it could be, whatever it is. If you're not clear about that, I would spend the time to get clear about that so that you can be functioning inside of a context, because context is decisive, and you can do the same things inside of a context called survival, or you could do those actions inside the context called fulfillment, and it will have a very different impact on you and your quality of life. And I'm about the quality of people's lives, not just what they're producing, but the quality of their life in the process. And, if you look at my finger, I'm holding up a finger for those of you that are listening, and I say in the context number, what is this? You'd say 1. And in the context body part, it's finger. And in the context direction, it's up. So reality, whatever this thing is is whatever it is. But the context shapes your view of reality. So you might not be able to change reality, like, that you lost, 50% of your business this year, or that your mother got diagnosed with cancer, or whatever it is, that's in reality. But you always have a say over the context, which gives you your experience of life. So I would say pay real close attention to the context you're functioning in. And if you're not empowered, change your context.
I love it. That is fantastic advice. This has been a lot of fun. I've really learned a lot, Josselyne. How can our listeners find out more about you and your services? And I think you have something that you have as an offering as well to our listeners.
Yeah, I want to, give people the opportunity to kind of practice this whole thing about creation versus reaction. So I've come up with a free 5-day promise game. So it's about using your word to create the future versus just react or describe. So that you can get that at giftfromjoss, JOSS.com, giftfromjoss.com. And from there, you can also see, the different programs I offer, or coaching opportunities, or newsletters. I have lots of things, whether it's free or, things that you can purchase, pre-recorded things, or engage with me as a coach. But mostly, I just want people to get in the game of creating versus reacting. So that's why I created the Promise Game.
That's fantastic. And we're going to put links in the show notes for that resource. Again, listeners, this is a free resource to you. And if you listen to this show and you say, well, I don't have a lot of money, but I want to be a better leader. Well, guess what? We just gave you something for free. This is a giftfromjoss.com. We're going to have that joss.com. We'll have that link in the show notes. It's a 5-day promise game, and it'll help you get that focus, get that vision, start getting your thinking right about it. So, and again, if there's something in this episode that you really are excited about, reach out to Josselyne and ask her those questions, and I'm sure she'd be willing to help you out and get you at least on the right track. So I encourage you to do it for sure. Well, Josselyne, thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for sharing this really fascinating discussion that I think we all need to hear, because the things you're talking about, the idea of being unmessable with, is something that we all need to listen to, whether we're leading a team of 20 or 2 or 2,000. This is really important for us. So to getting our minds right about how we deal with reality.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks again. Well, that's it for today. Thank you for listening to Deep Leadership. If you like this podcast, please subscribe and share so we can continue to build a world with better bosses. Until next time, this is John Rennie saying take care and lead well.
Thank you for listening to Deep Leadership.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all you do.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. For more information and updates, please visit our website at www.deepleadershippodcast.com or johnsrennie.com. Until next time, take care.
Are you passionate about saving the planet for future generations? Do you want to learn how to do it? If yes, then you need to tune in to the Nature Backed podcast. It's a talk show covering the changing world around us, from renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, circular economy, to ESG and social innovation. Don't miss this opportunity to discover how you can join the movement and make a difference. Subscribe to the Nature Backed podcast today on your favorite platform and get ready to be amazed.
Welcome to the Reverie channel, where entertainment knows no bounds. Live concerts, on-demand music, documentaries, and short films, all in stunning HD. Now on Roku TV, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. Immerse yourself from home. And on Android and iOS for those on the move. Support creators with crowdfunding donations. Fuel their creativity. Join us in shaping entertainment's future. The Reverie channel, where every view, every donation matters.